Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here for the School of Leadership Studies Open House. We put these open house events together as a way to help you all learn more about fielding outside of the program-specific information sessions, which I hope you've been able to attend. If not, we have those twice a month. Our first open house event at the very end of February highlighted a couple of our alumni. They shared their experience as students and told us about their current research projects, which they've been able to continue with fielding support through the Institute of Social Innovation. During the second open house event just a couple of weeks ago, our provost, Dr. Williams, and Associate Provost for Student Life and Thriving, Dr. Lindsay, provided insights into the unique experiences and opportunities available to students beyond the academic curriculum. If you missed those events, my colleague Brian will be sharing links to the recordings in the chat. But today's open house event is exciting for me because we brought together all of the School of Leadership Studies program directors all in one place. So this is a great opportunity to receive guidance and insights directly from our program leaders who have years of experience supporting adult students like yourselves all the way from admission to graduation. Here's a quick glimpse at our agenda. After I provide a brief overview of Fielding's history, we'll take a few minutes to hear from you all. As I mentioned, this event is for you, and we'd love to know where you're joining us from. The last few events, we had attendees from all over the country and in some cases all over the globe. Then Interim Dean of Academic Affairs, Dorothy Agragupta, will share her perspective and insights on academic excellence and student success. Following Dorothy, each of the program directors will tell you a little bit about themselves and share insights into their programs. We have left time for questions. Please feel free to type them in the chat as we move through the presentation, or just raise your hand if you want to ask a question directly at any point. But this year, we are proudly celebrating our 50th anniversary. Fielding's journey started in Santa Barbara, California, where our administrative offices remain to this day. 50 years ago, our founder saw a growing demand for advanced education among mid-career adults, and recognizing that traditional walls could not contain learning, our founders pioneered a distributed learning model, specifically for adults that were unable or unwilling to uproot their lives to continue their education. And since 1974, Fielding has embraced a student-centered philosophy. Unlike the sage on the stage model, our faculty see themselves as guides, valuing your unique experiences and wisdom that you're bringing to the classroom as adult learners. Today, we remain a regionally accredited nonprofit leader in graduate education with a vision of educating leaders, scholars, and practitioners for a more just and sustainable world, with values centered in academic excellence, community, diversity, learner-centered education, social justice, and transformational learning. Now that you have some context about how Fielding began, we'd love to know a little bit about you. So please share in the chat your name, where you're located, and what program you're interested in. While you do that, I'll quickly share. My name is Caroline Wedderburn. I'm Fielding's Admissions Engagement Specialist. I've had the pleasure of working closely with prospective students for years at Fielding. I'm grateful to be here with you all today as you explore the next steps in your graduate education. Throughout my time with Fielding, I've seen crazy connections made in Zoom chats, at information sessions, and at open house events like this. Your future classmates may very well be on this call today. So with that in mind, again, I encourage you, please share in the chat, again, your name, just your location, and which program you're interested in. Now, in terms of location, I am joining from Lompoc, California. which is an hour north of Santa Barbara, where our administrative office is. But like I mentioned, our community is widely distributed, faculty and staff and students all around the globe. So I'm excited to see where you're all calling in from. I'm just going to take a look to see some of your responses. We have Sarah from Carlsbad, interested in the Master's in Organizational Development. Wonderful. Colleague Brian from Santa Clarita. Thank you for being here, Brian. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Master's program, perfect. Barbara, our program director in Austin. So we're spanning the country. Oh, and Dorothy in Canada. This is wonderful. We're getting global here. Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing and continuing to do so. I'm going to proceed, but please continue putting in the chat where you're all joining in from. We love to hear what program you're interested in. Thank you for engaging through the chat. So now that you have some context about how fielding began, and we've had a chance to hear from some of you, I'm excited to turn it over to our presenters, starting with Interim Dean of Academic Affairs, Dorothy Agrigupta.
Hi, thank you so much, Caroline, and welcome everyone. I'm delighted to see you all here, and you have a great hour ahead of you where you're going to have a chance to learn a little bit more about the different programs and to ask lots of questions. I have been at Fielding for over 30 years. I came here to be at Fielding for only a year. It was a transition year for me, and that was in 1993. One of the things about Fielding is that we have the most amazing community of faculty, of students, staff, and alumni. And when you ask any of the faculty, why is it that you're at Fielding? Why have you stayed for whether it's 1 month or decades? It's all because the faculty here are committed to you and to supporting you throughout your Fielding journey, whether it's for a certificate, whether it's for your master's degree, or whether it's for a doctorate. We're all here to support you, and we really are a community, a learning community, and that is you and your faculty members will be engaged with each other as adult learners. You will also have great relationships with the peers, as Caroline said. Your peers will be many times your lifelong friends, and your relationship with your faculty can also be a lifelong relationship. And I'm delighted to have with us today someone where I had the honor of being her mentor and her chair in her dissertation, doctoral studies, and coming all the way when she was living and working in China. So welcome, Marjorie. It's good to see you here. And that's an example. I'm bringing this up because it's an example of how much this university is a place where you absolutely will have academic rigor. And you will also, though, have support and friendship with your peers and with the faculty and with the most amazing program directors. So thank you all for coming, and I'll be here throughout the hour if there are any questions that I can answer from my perspective as both a faculty in the HOD doctoral program, as well as the interim dean of academic affairs. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. And I will pass it to Dr. Barbara Mink.
I was just responding to, I think, was it Sarah? Sarah, was that you that was saying that you did your internship?
Yep, that was me.
Okay, well, I'll start off by talking about some of that then.
Cool.
I have been at Fielding for many decades, actually longer than Dorothy has, and many, many different roles in the School of Leadership Studies. I'm now the program director for the EDD program. I've done work in the HOD program. I've also been on the Fielding board, but I live and work out of Austin, Texas. And one of the things, when I saw several of you folks that were down in the Southwest, we have a relationship with the Navajo Nation for several years, and several over, I think 30 students right now have completed their doctorate in education that are members of the nation, that go all the way from Head Start programs through people who are working at Dene College and Navajo Technical University. We're having our 8th annual Navajo Education Conference down there in Window Rock on June 7th. So if any of you want to just put in the chat your email address, I'll send you the save the date flyer. Because there's no registration fee and it's a full day. We're going to be honored to have the president or the vice president, we're not sure yet, of the Navajo Nation introducing the conference. But what we're doing in the education program, and I like to say that the EDD program is just not for teachers anymore, kind of thing, because we have people in the EDD that are working in nonprofit organizations, heads of nonprofits. We have people in the training and development field that are working in for-profit corporations. We do have public school educators that come through the EDD program. I myself have an EDD and find it a very flexible degree for scholar practitioners, people who want to live and make a change in what they're doing, either in their institutions, their agencies, their organizations. So again, we have people coming out of criminal justice, social service agencies, but are trying to make a difference in their communities or their organizations. And we're doing some really interesting kind of rebooting of our education curriculum at this time, beefing up a lot of the practitioner part that we have, building that reflective scholar practitioner, adding more rigor to our research courses that we're offering, and really emphasizing leadership skills and change skills, and developing yourself as a really reflective scholar practitioner, where your practice can inform your scholarship and learning, and what you're learning in the program affects the changes you're trying to make in your agencies and your organizations. So like I said, I have an EDD degree myself years ago from Duke University. I've, been a dean of 2 community colleges. I've taught at 3. I'm currently on the board of the Austin Community College District. So a lot of work in the community college sector, but I've also taught at Tier 1 research universities, and also done 30+ years of international business consulting. So I find that the EDD degree, with a blending of reflective scholar practitioner, and then we've added the word activist, so that means that you're really doing something in your agency or organization. So that's where the area that I'm working right now, and happy to meet you all. And I'll look at these chats that are coming through and get you some information on that conference. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you everyone for engaging through the chat, letting us know that you're interested in that conference. It's wonderful. I will now pass it to Dr. Kathy Geller to tell us about a couple of the PhD programs.
Unmute. Hi, good afternoon or good evening or good morning, depending on where you are in your world. Kathy Geller, and I'll start off with what I put in the chat, but I am actually a graduate of the Human and Organizational Development Program, graduated 20 years ago in 2004, and I'm happy to say that Dorothy Agri-Gupta was my early mentor. Barbara Mink became my mentor and served on my dissertation committee. So when Dorothy says you make these connections and maintain them, she's really talking, in my view, truth about Fielding and the opportunities that it creates in the world. I returned to Fielding 2 years ago to be program director of the Human and Organizational Development PhD programs. And those are 2 PhDs. And I always talk about them being interrelated. If you're interested, and I see that I'm trying to remember who, but I know one of you is specifically interested in the Human Development Program. As you think about the programs, if you're interested in the Human Development PhD, you're really focused on issues related to the individual. You might have an interest in stress and trauma, resilience, mindfulness, transformative learning. You're looking at the context of the individual, so that's your central focus, but within the larger context of the organization, and that's that interconnected piece of our two PhD programs. Perhaps you're also saying, well, but I also like to look at the organization. And when I came to Fielding, because I was focused in those days on corporates and leadership development, management development in that regard, I kind of lived between these two different degrees because I also had a commitment to, my title included organizational effectiveness. And for that aspect, there is the interest in the calling organization development and change. The focus is on leadership, complex systems change, and we know we have tons of that going on in our worlds, community well-being, societies, and the people within them. So if you're interested, again, in these two interconnected PhD programs, the core courses are shared. There are specific core courses to each. On the human development side, again, focus more on positive development, well-being, and growth of individuals. On the ODC side, focused on organization, systems, community, and people. And what I will say is, during my tenure as a student at Fielding, I moved to Asia. I discovered that what I had learned, which was that focus on systems, allowed me to become a global head of management development in those days. I returned to the US 10 years later, working at Stanford University as an associate vice president for organization effectiveness, and then moved in eventually to teaching and spent 10 years with Drexel University as first an assistant and then associate clinical professor in their EDD program and program director there. So Fielding, the degree that you seek provides a foundation and allows you to open new doors and follow new paths in your life. Back to you, Caroline.
Thank you, Kathy. And I love that the theme coming along is, it's really based on student interest. Like I said at the beginning, Fielding was designed with the student in mind. It's student focused. So I love that for the EDD and Leadership for Change or these two PhD programs. It's really about what you're interested in and how we can support you through that. With that, I will pass it to Dr. Keith Ray to tell us about the Masters in Organization Development and Leadership.
Thank you, Caroline. Welcome, everyone. Glad to see you all. So again, my name is Keith Ray. I'm Program Director for the Masters in Organization Development and Leadership Program. A little bit about me, and there's kind of a theme here. I'm also a graduate of Fielding. I have my PhD from in the Human Organizational Development area. Barbara Mink was also my mentor, and again with that theme, I call her my friend, and she's always been my colleague. And that's part of what it's like in Fielding, and we keep these connections for a very long time. I actually work with my business partner, who is also a Fielding graduate, so it is very much a family. I have about 25, well, actually almost 30 years now as a organization development practitioner. I started as an internal, and then several years ago started a company with a business partner. I still have the company, and we still do a lot of work with a lot of organizations. So a little bit about the program. This is very much a practitioner scholar program. So you do get the scholarship, but it is also very much practice oriented. So we really help you understand how to apply the theories and ideas that you'll be learning in the program. It is a one-year program. The really nice thing about our masters, it's a one-year program, and you're through it always in a year. Everybody takes 1 year. And It is a little different than some programs in that it's a cohort-based program, so you work with the same people, and you really get to learn from them. It's a wonderful way of learning from each other and developing friendships and colleagues along the way. The other thing is that we are very much a broad-based look at organization development and leadership. So we don't focus on, say, a few theories and say, this is the way to learn organization development. We give you the opportunity to choose what is best for you. We want you to be a good consumer of knowledge so that you can decide, how to look at new theories as they come along, new practices, new methods, and decide what works for you. The other nice thing about this program is that if you're interested in one of the PhD programs, you get 20 credits will apply towards those PhD programs. So this is a really good way of getting started in the program, and you get your master's in organization development on the way. So it's a really nice way of getting your foot in the door, getting back into school, learning all those things. And if you're interested in continuing to get a PhD, it's a good way to do that. Really glad to see you all here, and I hope you have a lot of questions later on. Back to you, Carol.
Thank you, Dr. Ray. And there is a related question that we can take a moment to address related to the master's and PhD programs, or doctoral programs, I should say. In relation to the master's, are there any in-person class opportunities?
So our program is online. There is a weekly face-to-face meeting on Zoom that you'll have throughout the program. Fielding in general has, now that we're past the pandemic, we are again starting to meet in person at what we call our global sessions. We're having one in July. They aren't, for my program, they are not required, but it does give us an opportunity to get together and you meet each other, and there's a lot of professional development opportunities going on. We're having, in July, we're having 6 sessions. You can go to some of the sessions that are sponsored by the other programs as well, and there's wonderful things to learn there. So though it's not required, there's no face-to-face element required, we do have some opportunities throughout the year that you would be able to attend.
And I'm going to chime in too on that kind of question, Caroline, because like Keith said, after the pandemic, we were looking at people who like to learn in community, face to face. And so in our School of Leadership Studies, Kathy Geller and I have put together some regional events. We had one in Austin, Texas, that looked at research, and there's going to be one in Santa Barbara. And we're looking at having more of those kind of regional intensive pieces across different parts of North America. So actually our Navajo Education Conference is one such event. So even though you can do your degree at a distance, a lot of people like to learn face-to-face in community. And so we're adding more of those events as we're going through for people. So start thinking about your own learning style. Are you a relational learner? Do you like to engage? So you might want to consider those face-to-face opportunities.
There was a question somewhat related. Are there any consulting firms that actively recruit from graduates at Fielding?
One of the things that I've seen that goes through our alumni office, a lot of postings for students. Hillary Lynn posts those a lot of times. I don't know any particular organization. Keith, do you know of any consulting organizations that particularly recruit? I know that some people have worked with Center for Creative Leadership, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know any particular ones. We have people that go all sorts of places, but not that I know of that we have, a couple that target Fielding directly.
But there are opportunities, like Barbara had mentioned, the regional opportunities to do some consulting practices with the programs, and even the other one was to extend your dissertation work as well. There is another question. I think we answered this though. Does completing the master's in organization development and leadership benefit you if you return for your PhD in the same field or similar? Like we mentioned, 20 of those master's credits can be applied toward a doctorate at Fielding, the EDD in Leadership for Change, or toward the PhD in Human Development or PhD in Organizational Development and Change.
And let's put a context on those 20 credits because the full, Barbara, are you also 84 credits in the EDD? So all three of these doctoral programs are 84 credits. When you come in with 20 credits, it is the equivalent of almost a full year of 2 courses per year, 3 terms per year in the doctoral program. That would be 24 credits. So that year you spend in the master's gives you, I would say 89% of a year of the doctoral programs.
That is
And
a benefit,
I was-
yes.
I was going to say, and Okakan hasn't spoken yet about
Yes.
EDC, but there is that same option there. So,
And so that is a perfect segue. Let us allow Dr. Udo to talk about the certificate in evidence-based coaching.
Thanks, Caroline. Hello, everyone, from wherever you are logging in from. My name is Okokon Udo. I'm the director of the evidence-based coaching program here at Fielding Graduate University. I want to say a little bit about my background. I'm not one of those that set out getting certified in coaching right away to practice as a coach. I was in different leadership roles, the last of which was as an executive director of a nonprofit in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Excuse me. It was during that experience that I attended a program that was a year-long leadership program. It was during that program that we were each assigned coaches that supported us through that program. It intrigued me to the point that I registered for coaching, not intending to be an independent coach, but to integrate coaching practices into my leadership role. I didn't know that years later that I would lean more into using coaching in the work that I do. So I started out as an international consultant in leadership and change management, which I did for 25 years. And I have pivoted to the point right now that I am part of Fielding. And unlike my colleagues, I've been at Fielding for just 4 years now. Half of that as an associate faculty, and now I'm the program director of the EBC. The beauty of what I heard from my colleagues, about that connection to Fielding and the relationships that have been fostered over the years is that the moment I started at Fielding, I told my wife right away, as well as my family and friends, that I had found my people. That's the power of what you have heard each one of us talk about that is so real in this ecosphere that is called Fielding. So now onto the EBC program. The EBC program is only one of 2 coaching programs in the world that is not just accredited by the ICF, but also approved by what is called GSAC. GSAC is the Graduate School Alliance for Education and Coaching, and that is university programs around the world that have a coaching component to it. We are just one of 2 that are approved by GSAC. What that means is that when you complete a program, which is an 8-month program broken down into 2 terms, that you have what you need to eventually go for the ICF certifications at both the ACC, which is the Associate Certified Coach level, and the PCC, which is the Professional Certified Coach level. All that is required for you to attend those 2 levels of certification is the number of hours that you coach. By the time you leave a program, as part of the requirements, you would have acquired at a very minimum 24 hours of the 100 hours that will get you to the ACC level, and you will need 400 more hours after the ACC to go for the PCC. But our accreditation by the ICF covers the ACC and PCC. Not only do you graduate with what I just talked about, which is the acknowledgement by GSAC and the accreditation by the International Coach Federation, you also have 12 credits. That's what Kathy was alluding to moments ago, that can transfer to the programs that have already been talked about. And so you come away having all that you need to practice in very diverse environments. I told you I wasn't a coach initially. I still consider myself as a coach consultant right now. And we have 13 faculty in our department who have very diverse backgrounds that will enrich your process. One more thing that I want to say about those 13 faculty members is that by the time you complete your 8 months training with us in the EBC program, you would have had contact with every single faculty member, either as someone leading your intensives, somebody teaching you in the weekly classes, somebody who is leading your mentor circle, somebody who is your supervisor, or leading the 2-day intensive that happens midway through the term. And what that gives you is opportunity to learn from scholar practitioners who are practicing in many, many different fields that are not just restricted to coaching every day. I still have a consulting practice and a coaching practice outside of the work that I do, because I need to bring that knowledge and experience into the guidance that I provide for faculty and our learners in our program. So I hope you consider coaching as a resource for life, but as a resource that you can apply in any of those fields of human endeavor that you have heard my colleagues talk about. So thanks for being here. Back to you, Caroline.
Thank you so much. And that does conclude the presentation portion, so we can open it up for questions as well. And I will take a look at the Q&A to see what questions have been posted there, to make it a little bit easier as well to remember everyone's names and who you might have questions for specifically. I have these tiles here with everyone's name and program that they lead. Let me see. So we did answer some of the questions regarding the master's program and leading into the PhD program. And if anybody has specific questions, it looks like a few of you have asked about connecting with someone one-on-one to find out what program is a good fit. Our admissions team is available. You can reach them at admissions@fielding.edu. We'll put that in the chat along with their phone number. They'll help you learn about your interest and determine what program might be the best fit. But I do see some hands raised as well. Let's see. Jesse.
I think the other person had their hand raised first if they want to go.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. I have a very little screen here that I'm following the hands raised. So here we go. Fabrice, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening or good morning to everybody, depending on where you are. As you see, my name is Fabrice Tegia.
I can barely hear you.
My name is Fabrice Tegia, and I'm graduate from the University of Angers, the Engineer School of Istia. So I'm interested by your university because I really want to start an international career in future science or building strategy and things like that. I have a good experience in IT projects, IT digitalization, anyway. in many things just around the digitalization process. So my question today is, first of all, is on average the content of the different field, the different doctorate that people have. I've been interested by the one of organizational development. And my question is, why coming from a French university, will it be easy for me to be involved in that PhD?
In terms of the PhD in organizational development and change, this is a distance learning program, so we have students applying and participating in the program from all around the world. So you wouldn't have to be in person. So if you were asking, physically, it would be possible for you to join the program from wherever you're located, as long as you have internet access like today. So that just depends. In terms of applying for the application process, international students are welcome to apply. For your transcript, you would need to have that evaluated so that they could translate the transcript for us to determine the GPA equivalent for the US to make sure it does meet the minimum requirements. But as long as you're able to complete that, all the other application requirements are the same, and then you could be considered for the program. But like I mentioned too, if you have deeper questions and you want to have a conversation with our admissions team, my colleague Brian put in the chat their phone number and their email too. So that'll be helpful if you want to have a deeper conversation to make sure that the program is a good fit. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
And go ahead, Jesse.
Okay, so my question is for Keith Ray, Mr. Ray, if you would, or doctor, I don't remember, sorry about that. My question is, I know you had said that the focus is more on applying theory. What kind of, if any, like practical application do we get in the Masters of Org Development and Leadership? Like, is there hands-on work with organizations that are at, like, is it more of a consulting base? Is it a research base? Is it general? What does the actual application look like?
Yeah, good question. I think the simple answer to that is it really is very much applied in that. So the way the program flows is in the beginning, you'll be getting some general theories of organization behavior, and then we move into organizational culture, and then we talk about organizational change. And as you start to do that, we start applying those theories a little bit more. So one of the modules, in fact, is where you do essentially a long simulation of an engagement, where you interview the faculty and they play the role of leaders in organizations, and then you give them some feedback and some ideas on what they could do. All of that is leading to our capstone, and our capstone is an applied capstone, meaning that you're going to work with a real organization on real issues. And you can do that in an organization that you have to work for or with, but if you're not in that situation, which many people are not, we find an organization for you to work with. A nonprofit organization, often in something that one of our faculty are connected with in various ways, and you work with that organization on their real problems. So you actually engage in a consulting engagement with them.
Awesome, thank you, I appreciate that. And if I may double dip here, I just have one more question. In your experience, what kinds of roles or careers does this really ramp you up to be effective in?
Yeah, it's pretty broad, I would say, in the types of roles that you can apply this in. Anywhere from, there's a lot of people in HR roles, a lot of people in consulting, both internal or external. We have people that are working in nonprofits as leaders or support staff in nonprofits. We have some people who actually started the program. They were senior vice presidents of organizations, and they use it in their leadership to help change and transform an organization. So it's very broad. And really, if there's anything in your role or in your desired role that has to do with making organizations better, this really helps with that. And so it is very much an applied way of getting into lots of different organizations.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
You bet.
I know there are other questions related to the doctoral programs, but since we're all about the masters right now, I'll present one more to Dr. Ray. Just regarding the flexibility of the program, you mentioned it's for working professionals. Are most of the classes self-paced, or how is it made flexible?
Yeah, we want people to, because it's a cohort-based program, we want people to stay together on the program. It's essentially sort of a week by week set of curriculum. And there is a weekly Zoom class that you will attend where you're wrestling with questions with your cohort members and other faculty. They're all recorded, so if you happen to miss one or two, you can watch the recording. The rest of the week, though, it is pretty much on your own, and you can see all your assignments at the beginning of the week, and you can decide which ones you want to tackle when. You can do them in any order during that week. So it is very flexible in that sense. And our faculty are also very accommodating. If you have, something coming up and you're going to miss a few days and you need to get something extended, or you want to work a little ahead, they're very flexible in that regard. And the other thing about the program is sometimes life happens and you need to take a break. You can take a leave of absence for a term, which would be about 4 months, and pick it up again when you're ready to. So there is a lot of flexibility built in.
Great, thank you. And did you want to add, Barbara, or were you
Well,
going
I was
to?
just saying that maybe Kathy can talk about the question there about the person finishing up an org dynamics masters.
Yes, that was the next one I was going to mention. Kathy, she's mentioning they're finishing up their master's with a leadership coaching concentration and wondering how long the human development PhD might take coming in with those credits.
Okay, so our program is an 84 credit program, and we see it for those students, and we are 3 terms a year. And to move through the program regularly, you take 2 courses a term until you finish your coursework and then do your dissertation. If you had to do the full 84 credits and you moved in that lockstep way, it's a 3.5 to 4 year program. If you're in a master's and let's say you start in this May in our summer term, any courses that you've taken at a graduate level from May 2016 to present would be considered and looked at. And Amina, because you're finishing a recent master's in org dynamics, we would probably be looking at your coursework. We would transfer in up to 20 credits. And we'd meet and look at your syllabi, look at your transcript, and identify the courses for alignment, then work with the registrar on that. In a 64 credit program would probably, remember I said, think about it as 24 credits a year. So a 64 credit program, you've deleted 20 credits, you've deleted in essence 2.5 terms of work. So if you're graduating in 3.5 to 4 years, now you're graduating in, Barbara, help me. Numbers.
About
Back-
about 3 years or so. Yeah.
About 3 years. 3 years, 3 years in one term.
Yeah.
So you've taken it back in that amount. Dorothy, would you add anything?
Sure.
Dorothy has been a faculty, a dean, a program director. So when
Yeah.
she speaks from a lot of knowledge.
Sure. I think the length of time in a doctoral program depends upon a lot of things. You have an advantage if you have a recent degree where you're familiar with the literature, you're familiar with the field. But even more than that, I think a couple of things really matter. One is how committed are you? How much time are you able to actually commit to the program, we're for working adults. So if your position allows you to be flexible and to be very self-directed, to take the time you allocate to study to actually study, then and the other thing that really matters in a doctoral program, of course, is the nature of your dissertation. And some dissertations take a total of about 9 months. Others may take 2 or 3 years. That's up to you because you're going to be deciding what you're going to do your dissertation on. We're going to support you in the doctoral program in any of the doctoral programs in doing your research in the area that matters most to you. And so, but there again, some people choose deliberately to do research that's going to take longer. So I think I would really plan on 3 years. Could be a little less, it could be more. That's going to really depend upon you. We have lots of tips for time management and tips to work with other students and other faculty for helping you to, as much as possible, graduate in the timeline that you are planning. I would say 2.5 years is by far the minimum. But really plan on about 3 years. And the other thing, I think this was mentioned, but I'm not sure, and this applies to the doctoral programs, you also have the option of taking leaves, and you can take 1 term off a year. We have 3 terms at Fielding and 3 terms per year, and you can take 1 of those terms off. And during the term off, you do not pay tuition. You also cannot take any courses, you cannot do your research. But there are many ways to fit Fielding into your life. And we have lots of graduates and lots of experienced faculty in all of the programs that will help you, work with you to make the very best choice and to do the planning. Before you begin the program, we work with you to help you plan how long something will take. So that's a good question to follow through with with the program director. If you're looking at the Human Development or ODC, to contact Kathy. Contact admissions first, go to an info session, and then you can definitely set up appointments with Kathy and just tentatively plan your schedule. That's a great question, and mostly it's going to be up to you.
Yeah, Carolyn, there's a question about research projects. Every year, and support for funding, every year Fielding has a time where people can apply for scholarships. A lot of people apply for those scholarships when they're doing their doctoral research, working on their dissertation. There is no kind of ongoing support for funding research, but you can apply for scholarships that might help you fund some of your research as you're getting to the end of your doctoral work.
Absolutely. Like Barbara said, it's not fully funded, but there are scholarship opportunities that can help supplement your research or your tuition as you progress through the program. Some of those are based on your research, some are based on merit, some even like our incoming student scholarship. It's called the Provost Achievement Scholarship. That can help with your first term tuition as well. So there are different opportunities at different stages of the programs that can support you. And we have a financial aid team that can help have conversations about funding your degree in different ways. There was an interesting question under the Q&A section. I don't know if anyone wants to take this one. Would you suggest gaining a PhD? Are there any benefits that someone can boast about having their doctorate, their PhD or doctoral degree?
Oh, that is a great question. I don't know, but one of the things, of course, is you can be speaking as, I could be speaking as Barbara Mink, but then if I'm speaking as Dr. Barbara Mink, sometimes people listen more. So it really is, what would you say, Keith and Kathy, a bonus, I guess, when you're presenting at conferences, maybe you're doing your own consulting business or your own coaching business to introduce yourself as, say, a Dr. So-and-so. Of course, that also underpins the knowledge that you have that allows you to use that term. So you would be also a competent professional as well as having the title. Yeah.
I think what's
sell more
wonderful,
books. I like that one. Liking to sell more books. Thanks, Jesse. Yeah.
and I
Or
mean,
doing more speaking.
I was going to say the peer feedback, and this is part of fielding, is learning happens within the community. So those are great responses in that regard. I will say, in terms of my own career experience, getting hired at Stanford University as the associate vice president for organization effectiveness, I had 20 years of experience in the field that helped, but they were specifically looking for a PhD for that environment. So some environments will want that, other environments, it won't matter. And I think Marjorie can speak to this as one of our international scholar practitioners in terms of her life, perhaps.
And I think for me, sorry, Marjorie, you're going to go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that question. I think as a Fielding grad, what the PhD does seem to affirm how you feel and what you aspire to internally. And then that made a difference in how I make decisions and which direction I want to go to. And more, it's funny because Dottie was my chair, and the first couple of years I was talking about business models. And then the next 10 years to experience how things really are. But I just want to share, it really made a difference, not so much on the title, but how you feel internally about what you set out to do.
Yeah. And I think what Marjorie was saying, I started out in a PhD program. I was a consultant in the IT field, developing computer systems. And I wanted a PhD after my name because as a woman in IT, a PhD would be helpful, I thought. But during your studies, you change, you develop new interests, and you're allowed to become more of who you are. And I ended up, when I graduated, in teaching, and that was totally surprising to me. But becoming a PhD at Fielding from the very beginning, you are allowing yourself to explore your own interests and developing yourself in ways that change who you are, help you become more of who you are. And I think all of us here who already have PhDs, we've all experienced it. And Keith, you were about to say something also.
Yeah, thanks, Dorothy. I think one of the things that the PhD helped me do, the process of obtaining the PhD, is to learning how to learn. In organizations, and the world is changing so fast, we are constantly in need of learning faster. And the PhD helped me learn faster as a leader in an organization. It helped me, first of all, see the problem systemically. Fielding, most of all of our programs are very systems based. So I could see the problem systemically and then learn how to figure out what do I need to know about this new problem and how can I learn faster. So and other leaders that I've worked with who have had PhDs, I think they would probably say similar things, in that it helped them in their positions learn faster because they knew that process.
point.
All
Uh,
great answers. And I know
yeah.
we just have a few more minutes.
I
But
answered a couple of questions. Somebody asked about a program.
perfect.
I responded to the person, we do not have a law school. And then the question about taking consideration for works done outside the United States. The international, your transcript from a university outside the United States will be reviewed, and we can consider those courses. But we do not give credit for just work in our program. We give credit, like Kathy was saying, coming into the doctoral program for coursework taking at other accredited universities. And being 49 years old or whatever that is there, Jen, we have people at Fielding. One of the stories that I tell is one gentleman started the Fielding program at 78. He graduated at 82 and he started a business with his son. So average age of our students is late 40s. You're right in there. And it looks like Sandra had her hand up too.
Yes, perfect. Go ahead, Sandra.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So thank you. This has been so informative. I had a question regarding, I guess this is both for the EDD in Leadership for Change and also PhD in Organizational Development. Wanted to know, when a student reaches the ABD stage, how does the access to faculty work? And like maybe the graduate school administrative staff, or how to support work in that phase after one has completed all of the coursework? Would it be setting appointments? Can you share with me a little bit about how that would work or what that looks like?
Yeah, I can talk part of this. Also, too, when you get advancement to candidacy, you get a 30% decrease in your tuition, too. So that is
wow.
an important milestone in our doctoral program. But you have a mentor that works with you early on and looking at your dissertation process. We call it a concept paper early on. So your mentor would help you with that. And then you'd start forming a committee. So you're thinking about your dissertation as you're going through the coursework. We really encourage folks not to take all the coursework and then say, oh my golly, I've got to do a dissertation. Now what do I do? We ask you to start thinking about that so your coursework can help you advance your literature review and your dissertation study, as well as your research approach. And then you work intensively with your chair of your dissertation and your dissertation committee when you're finishing that coursework. Kathy, do you have anything else in that?
I think Dorothy probably does, because she mentors so many and chairs
Yeah.
so many dissertations currently.
Yeah, you have even closer relationships, I think, with faculty, and that's one of the distinguishing pieces of Fielding as the Fielding doctoral programs. We have a lot of people who come into our programs who have been in other doctoral programs and switched to Fielding. And one of their first comments is, I never had this kind of support in my other program. So it doesn't lessen it. Okay. You're meeting with your mentors, you're meeting with your chair, you're meeting with your dissertation committee. And of course, you still have access to all of our staff advisors. So there's a lot of support. And that's a real key part of studying at Fielding, I think.
Thank you.
And I think that helped address Leonard's question as well a little bit. He was asking about the dissertation process. When do you begin thinking about your areas of interest and putting together your dissertation question? From the very beginning, we encourage you and support you with that process. Well, we have reached the top of the hour, and I really appreciate all of your time, being here with us today, being engaged with us with your questions. They've been fantastic. This isn't the end, though. Please reach out to our admissions team by phone, by email, so we can support you further, help you determine if it is the right program, the right time, and the right place. If you haven't attended a program-specific information session and want to learn more about any of the programs we've discussed today, our events calendar has a list of all of the upcoming sessions. We host them typically twice a month. We do have recorded sessions as well. I know some of you are calling in at different times of the day, so if that's helpful, you can watch the recording. And, just reach out as questions come up. So again, thank you so much for your time joining the Fielding community today. We hope to see you all again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.